My name is Jocelyn. I was a career-oriented person, but my husband always opposed this way of life. As a result, my husband and I divorced before our eldest son, Eric, graduated from elementary school. Eric, who admired his father, went with him after our divorce, while our younger son, Alex, who didn't share the same bond, stayed with me. Truth be told, I have always been worried about Eric, but since my husband claimed Eric hates you and doesn't want to see you, I haven't met him since the divorce. Regarding child support, we decided not to pay each other since we were both raising our children. However, as Alex is 3 years younger than Eric, my husband arrogantly offered to pay 3 years of child support for Alex. There was no infidelity involved, so beyond the 3 years of child support, there were no other financial transactions between us during the divorce. As for the division of property, we both preferred to keep our own earnings, so there was no need to split anything. Originally, we each contributed a set amount of money monthly for necessary expenses, so we didn't have much in the way of joint savings. If anything, it was just the children's savings that we had divided. I was disgusted with my husband, who always belittled my job despite knowing little about it. The reason I married such a person was due to an arranged marriage set up by my parents. When there were no better options available, I was persuaded to marry, having been deceived by my husband's seemingly kind facade at our first meeting. He occasionally looked down on me for being a woman, a sentiment echoed in his family's attitude. I tried not to let it bother me too much. However, after the children were born, he ridiculed my job, saying, "If you return to such a foolish job, I might consider cutting ties with you as a family." I don't think my job deserves to be called foolish. But when I said, "Don't belittle my job. There should be no hierarchy in work after all," my husband snorted arrogantly and said, "If people find out about your job, our children will be mocked at school and other places. Don't you think that would be pitiful? The idea that our children would be ridiculed because of my job is absurd, yet since my work involved being seen by people, there was a possibility that the children could be spoken about behind my back. This concern was always on my mind. I had discussed this with my colleagues, and among them, some continued their work because their husbands supported them. However, in my case, the person I hoped would be my support turned out to be my greatest adversary. He threatened to take the children and sever ties if I returned to work, leaving me no choice but to quit. During the time I was struggling, his relatives came to our house where my husband and I lived. They said within my hearing, "The job Jocelyn is doing is somewhat embarrassing." I never imagined that the entire family would gang up and corner me, especially as a wife who had just given birth and was raising a newborn. So, I quit my job. If his family was against it, consulting my parents would have been futile, as they would have told me to obey my husband's family. Truthfully, my parents pushed for the marriage because my father, working for my husband's father, was offered to erase a major mistake in exchange for marrying me off to his twice-divorced son. So, in exchange for erasing his mistake, my parents gladly offered me up. Therefore, no matter what I said or how my husband treated me, it was impossible for my father and mother to take my side. I thought I would have to spend my life obeying this man. Just when I had resigned myself to this fate, my second son, Alex, was born. While my first son, Eric, was assertive, Alex was more laid back. It seems my husband couldn't accept the different personalities of our sons. He often scolded Alex, saying, "Act more decisively like a man should. You're embarrassing." Moreover, my husband's relatives would say things like, "It would have been enough just to have Eric, our eldest. We wanted a second son just in case, but with Alex turning out like this." They never tried to see the good in Alex and spoke as they pleased. That's why I always defended Alex when my husband scolded him. In contrast, Eric, who was always praised by my husband, became more fond of him and even started to mock his brother Alex. Moreover, my husband would buy whatever Eric wanted, but ignored the needs of Alex. That's why I decided to restart my work. However, when I mentioned this, my husband vehemently opposed it. "If you restart working, I'll divorce you. Eric will stay with me as he's the heir to our family. Take Alex with you. We don't need a failure like him in our house. Then, let's get divorced. His conditions were very favorable to me. To take custody of Alex and get divorced. If he had said he wanted custody of Alex, I might have hesitated about the divorce. But since he said he didn't want Alex, I was more than willing to get divorced. So, I took custody of Alex and we got divorced. Over 20 years have passed since then, and I now live in a small house. Alex, who lived with me, has grown up and left the nest, and I live alone. I was living a peaceful life on my own while working, but then someone came to disrupt my life. Mom, it's me. Normally, I'd think of a phone scam, but this man was trying to scam me through the intercom. Or maybe, after over 20 years, it could be my eldest son, Eric. Thinking that I shouldn't give away any information, I asked through the intercom, "Who might you be?" Annoyed, he replied, "How can you forget your own son just because we haven't met in over 20 years? It's Eric. Your firstborn son." This didn't seem like a scam. Eric was indeed my firstborn, and it's true we haven't met in over 20 years. Only Eric himself would know this, and looking closely, he might bear a resemblance to how he looked in elementary school. But what concerned me more was the flashy blonde woman behind the man claiming to be Eric. She must have dyed her hair golden. Playing with her long hair with her pointed nails, she said, "Hey, Eric, are we done yet? Anyway, let me in, Mom." "I have something to talk about," said Eric. Reluctantly, I opened the door. "Are you really Eric?" I asked, still keeping the door chain on, and he, getting irritated, said, "You don't have to be so cautious." Look, showing me his health insurance card. Indeed, it had my husband's surname and the name Eric. The address listed was my in-laws' address. Convinced, I finally unchained the door. "What brings you here so suddenly?" "Ah, we're going to live here from today." "What?" Shocked by Eric's sudden declaration, the woman also entered the house, saying, "Nice to meet you, Mother." Confused, I asked for an explanation while preparing coffee and snacks. They sat on the sofa and began to explain. Eric had been raised as the heir to my ex-husband's family but had run away, finding the successor training tedious. Moreover, he was supposed to have an arranged marriage with a young lady from a respectable family but fled after hastily submitting a marriage registration with his girlfriend, causing a huge uproar in his family. I asked, "Why come to my house?" Eric nonchalantly replied, "Well, Dad hates you, Mom, and I never really thought of you as a mother. No one would expect me to flee here. How can someone say they dislike someone they are about to rely on for shelter?" I couldn't imagine saying that, fearing being kicked out. Then, Sherry, the wife of Eric who was beside him, suddenly said, "I'm so tired. I want to take a bath." It was only 3 p.m., so there was no way the bath was ready. However, Eric, seemingly valuing Sherry more, turned to me and said, "Mom, go heat the bath," as if it was the most natural request. So, I reluctantly went to the bathroom and started cleaning it. I thought it would be okay to let them stay for today, but surely my ex-husband and his relatives would come looking for them soon. If that's the case, there was no need for me to go out of my way to kick them out. It would just be a matter of enduring a few days. That's what I thought, but my expectation was way off. Incredibly, the two of them ended up squatting at my house for an entire month. During that time, neither my ex-husband nor his relatives contacted me. I couldn't believe they wouldn't be able to find them, and I was puzzled about what they were doing. So, while on my way to work, I contacted Alex without letting the other two overhear. "Alex, I need to talk to you about something." "Oh, Mom?" "That's good timing. I wanted to discuss something with you too." "You have something to discuss with me?" Alex was laid back as a child and often called a failure by my in-laws, but he was just disinterested in anything that didn't capture his attention. However, he showed incredible ability in things he was interested in. So, he usually solved most things on his own and rarely consulted me. I was wondering what he could possibly want to discuss when he dropped a bombshell. Actually, Dad contacted me for the first time. He caught one of my elementary school classmates, gave him some money, and got my contact information. I can't believe it. And he asked if I would take over as the heir instead of Eric. Even suggested I might arrange a marriage with a daughter from a well-off family. You didn't, did you? Of course not, I turned it down. I breathed a sigh of relief. If Alex had gone to my in-laws, I feared he would be ridiculed for his job, just like they ridiculed mine. I'm committed to my current job, and I hate Dad and his relatives. I told them I have no plans to marry, and when I did, he started yelling, so I blocked him. That's good. If he becomes too persistent, consult the police, okay? Got it. So, what's your situation? Actually, Eric ran away from home, registered a marriage with a woman, and now they've been squatting in my house for over a month. Upon hearing my words, Alex was initially surprised, saying, "Eh?" But then, he quickly understood, remarking, so that's why Dad contacted me. It seemed like he suddenly realized why he had received an unexpected call from his father. Clearly, once they realized Eric was no use to them, they turned to Alex, whom they had previously discarded. But Alex, having been cast aside by them, wouldn't go back. Both Alex and I sighed, troubled by my ex-husband and eldest son. I'll unblock Dad and tell him where Eric is. And Mom, you just need to make sure they can't escape. Will that really work? What are you saying? It's all about acting. You're good at that, right? Yes, I suppose so. I listened to Alex's plan and decided to execute it. Then, I meticulously prepared for the day to come. It all started when I casually left a travel brochure for Miami on the table. As expected, Sherry started saying, "I want to go on a trip," and Eric joined in. Eric said, "I'll take you there." But the truth is, since he started living here, he has never paid any money. Yet, he often says to Sherry, "I'm going to be the next CEO, so we can enjoy luxurious travels in the future." I wonder why he still thinks he can become the next CEO, especially after running away from the successor training. It's quite a mystery to me. But, his delusions are not my concern. I was also supposed to go on this trip. After all, I was driving to the airport and had paid for the outbound flight. However, as soon as we arrived at the airport, Eric snatched the plane tickets from my hand. He said, "I'm canceling this ticket." I was shocked. Then, to my surprise, Sherry said, "Just leave your credit card and go home, old lady." Eric joined in, "Don't think you can travel for free. Just because you lent us your house doesn't mean you can expect a treat from me, the future CEO." Feeling dejected, I replied, "Okay, I understand," and left. Well, my dejection was just an act. As soon as they were up in the clouds, I canceled the credit card. It was a card I never used, so it wasn't a loss for me. Soon after Eric and Sherry arrived in Miami, I received multiple calls from them. Eric angrily said, "What's going on? The credit card isn't working." I calmly replied, "Of course, it's not. I canceled that card. He must have tried to make a payment somewhere. But that's not my concern. Cancellation? Reactivate it now. Even if I did, you couldn't use that card. Aren't you rich? Weren't you the future CEO? If you're so grand, you should start paying for staying at my house every month." I could hear Sherry reacting on the other end of the phone, which was apparently on speaker mode. "What? Pay you, Mother?" "Yes, that's right. After all, you two have been living off me, with me paying for food, utilities, and everything. Do you think you're some kind of god?" "But," Eric said, "you demand a lot of money from us and that you're unemployed." Unemployed is Eric, isn't it? He hasn't been to the company since he ran away from his successor training. It should have been obvious that Eric was unemployed, but it seems Sherry never doubted his claims of being the future CEO. I was completely astonished. From the other end of the phone, I heard Sherry say, "Liar. I agreed to marry you because you said you were the next CEO. I'd never marry a regular employee, let alone unemployed. Eric must have felt guilty. But I'm the only son and heir. My dad and relatives always said I'm the definite successor. Oh, about your father, he recently contacted Alex to ask if he would like to be the successor. What? Eric, who hadn't known what his father was up to, must have been completely shocked. Probably, he had been spoiled as the sole heir after I divorced and left the in-laws' house, with neither me nor his brother around. That's why he never considered someone else becoming the next CEO of his father's company. Well, it seems Alex declined. He's committed to the job he loves now. Declining to be the next CEO. What kind of job is he doing? I was dumbfounded. You don't know? Your brother is doing the same kind of work I do. What? What are you talking about? Dad always said that Mom was doing some embarrassing job. Probably something like a night job, right? Indeed. It seems my ex-husband and his family had given Eric a major misunderstanding about my job. If you had even tried to learn about your mother, you would have found out quickly. Before I was told to quit by your father and his relatives, I was a successful actress, and I returned to acting after divorcing your father. Actress? And now, Alex is also working as an actor. He's currently filming overseas. No way. Eric was stunned by my words. Next to him, Sherry seemed to have researched about me and Alex. Oh, it's true. No way! Your brother is way cooler than you, Eric. I should have married him instead of you. I replied, sorry, but Alex has no intention of getting married. Besides, someone rude like you is not his type. Perhaps it was the first time she felt unrecognized as a woman, as she started crying right there. Then, from the other end of the phone, a burly man's voice said, found them, and I could hear Eric's surprised voice. It must have been my ex-husband and his relatives who caught them at the Miami airport. Alex was the one who leaked information about the trip to my ex-husband. He must have thought I wouldn't want to contact my ex-husband, so he offered to do it himself. If Alex wouldn't become the successor, they might have thought to at least get a grandchild from Eric, even if he wasn't CEO material. My ex-husband quickly got hold of Eric's information and booked a ticket to Miami. I heard from Alex later that the arranged marriage partner Eric was supposed to meet was from a family that could easily crush my ex-husband's company. That young lady fell in love at first sight with Eric's photo and threatened to destroy the company if they didn't let her marry him. So, in a panic, they searched frantically for Eric. Apparently, Sherry was taken along and threatened by that lady. I have scary acquaintances. I'll introduce you to them. She signed the divorce papers and fled. When I married, my ex-husband's family did something similar, so now they were on the receiving end of threats. I thought about it deeply. Well, it's no longer my concern as I've cut ties with them. Eventually, Eric couldn't escape and now works as an employee in his father's company, constantly monitored and checked by his new wife via Messenger. One day, I don't know how he got my contact, but Eric reached out, Mom, help me. I want to escape this life. You're an actress, you must have money, right? Hide me. But soon after, not from Eric, but from the lady he married, I received, Madam, sorry for the trouble. Please don't worry about Eric. I'll support him thoroughly. I replied, if that's the case, I'm relieved. I've cut ties with my ex-husband and Eric, so please delete this contact. Since then, I haven't heard from Eric. Alex and I now laugh about the whole ordeal, saying, that was quite a situation back then. We've fully returned to our own lives.